Okay, so 5 alternatives to selling on Etsy. Before we start, remember to hit the like and subscribe button. That way, the YouTube algorithm will trigger this video to reach a heck of a lot more people and get this information out to them as well. All right, so 5 alternatives to selling on Etsy. So whether it be you just want to look for another place to sell your items, or if you got banned on Etsy, or you're just not a fan of the fees, or whatever the case may be, this video is for you. Okay, the first alternative is Amazon Handmade. So if you are consistently selling on Etsy, you can expect possibly triple or quadruple what you're selling on Etsy daily on Amazon Handmade. There are a ton of pros to selling on Amazon Handmade. Of course, number one being that it is the biggest platform and they're the most traffic on this website. And yes, there is even more traffic on Amazon Handmade than there is on Etsy. So of course, reaching the biggest audience in the world in terms of selling handmade products is the number one reason why you would go with Amazon Handmade. However, there are a ton of cons to selling on Amazon. Number one is actually applying and being approved to sell on Amazon Handmade. So again, if you are a consistent seller on Etsy and you apply for Amazon Handmade and you're selling, let's just say, your own handmade products on that website consistently, I don't see why you would not be approved for Amazon Handmade. Another con to selling on Amazon Handmade is that you are pretty much at the mercy of Amazon and their terms and conditions, just like on Etsy. At any time that you can be banned or thrown off Amazon Handmade by violating any of their changing terms and conditions. Another con to selling on Amazon Handmade is I've found that Amazon seems to always have the customer's interest at heart. So that means they will try to please the customer however they possibly can, even if it's not to your own benefit. So the next Etsy alternative is your own website. Your own website is by far the best Etsy alternative because when you have your own website, you're not at the mercy of sites like Amazon, Etsy, or eBay with their ever-changing terms and conditions. And what I mean by that is that when, let's just say, you're selling on eBay, then you are pretty much at eBay's mercy in terms of what they will allow and what you can and can't sell on their website, or whether it be their return policy or anything like that. And of course, that's just eBay. With Etsy, it's pretty much the same exact thing. You are at their mercy in terms of their terms and conditions, which are ever changing. But with your own website, you are your own boss, genuinely. You can control your own returns. You don't have to deal with Etsy cases anymore. All that is completely out the window. Selling on your own website definitely has its pros and disadvantages, but the pros outweigh the disadvantages by a lot. So remember to subscribe also, because I'm going to cover a lot more about, which platforms you can potentially use when you're selling your own handmade items. You can send people offers. You can, send people discounts and everything on your own website. And in fact, if you already have an Etsy account, I would just run and jump on selling on your own website right now anyway. Whether you're not selling on Etsy anymore or you still are, opening a website is by far the best alternative to Etsy. Sites like BigCommerce, Squarespace, Shopify. It really depends on what you want to sell or where you want to take your business. So what is the best host for your website? Personally, I would look into Shopify and WooCommerce, but I would really check all of them out. But what I would check out is the SEO, which means search engine optimization. And search engine optimization basically means, all it means is like if you're searching for something on Google or Yahoo or Bing, whatever, then your item could potentially come up in the images or just like on normal search online. One of the downsides to selling on your own website is that Etsy and Amazon for instance, have you beat at SEO, search engine optimization? I'm not going to get so much into all that stuff in this video because there's a lot to cover there. The next Etsy alternative is Poshmark. So Poshmark makes it incredibly easy to just list all of your items. Poshmark has a huge customer base, and it's a very loyal customer base as well. And I've received a ton of sales on Poshmark, so this website absolutely works. Poshmark advertises all the time on TV, and Poshmark invests literally millions upon millions of dollars into advertising on Google Shopping. And this website is by far one of the best Etsy alternatives out there. And in fact, as I was making this video, I received a sale on Poshmark from one of my personal items. Another huge advantage of selling on Poshmark is that you don't have to pay for a label, a shipping label. A priority mail shipping label is already given to you after you make the sale on Poshmark. Now, in a way, this is some sort of a disadvantage depending on how you look at it. Every single item is priced at way more than really what it should be because the shipping label itself is about like $7 for the customer. It's because they're purchasing priority mail. So you're most likely going to receive less sales on Poshmark than on sites like eBay because of this. Another big downside to Poshmark is they expect the item to go in like less than 2 days after a sale. And they are really strict about this. Like you have to be on it. Like you have to get the item to the customer very quickly. Otherwise they'll send you like, hey, did you send the item yet? They'll actually send you emails like, did you send the item? Like, what's going on there? Which in my opinion is very annoying. That's one of the downsides, but a big upside to selling on Poshmark is you will absolutely receive the sales. So really you're taking the good with the bad with Poshmark. The next Etsy alternative that I'm going to talk about is an app and a website called Depop. So Depop is kind of like an Instagram looking app. A lot of like vintage clothing and other types of clothing and handbags and handmade items are sold as well. Depop is great because you don't have to get approved like sites like Amazon Handmade. Depop is great for people who sell like vintage clothing, like, concert tees or, Harley Davidson type like clothing or, really anything that is, again, tailored toward that Instagram audience. That's what you kind of have to keep in mind when you're selling on Depop. Depop is great because it allows you to be discovered, like using hashtags on whatever the product is. It has a very quick listing tool, very similar to Poshmark and Mercari. Depop does have its disadvantages. Number one, the reach is not as big as Amazon Handmade or Etsy, of course, as you probably could figure. And number two, Depop really requires you to, stay active to give you the best chance of selling an item. And by staying active, meaning that, you keep on having to, kind of change your products around and keep on listing more and more and more on the website, similar to eBay. That's kind of like the best example I can give you, is that eBay kind of recognizes in their own algorithm of whether or not you're, sending out offers to buyers or staying active on the website. And that gives you the best chance of selling, your items to, potential buyers. And Depop pretty much works very similarly to eBay in that regard. So if you are active on Depop, however, then this is a major pro because you are, pretty much going to be featured, because Depop rewards people like you. But if you're not as active and you're selling on many other websites like Poshmark or, Etsy, eBay like myself, then it doesn't work as well. But, Depop, however, is still a great Etsy alternative and is definitely worth checking out. And finally, the last alternative that I will talk about in this video to Etsy is Facebook Marketplace. There are a ton of great perks with listing on Facebook Marketplace as an alternative to Etsy. There are so many people around the world that use Facebook even today. So many items that you can list Really, you see here are the options, like an item for sale, like a single listing, or you can list, multiple items. Or you can list a car, a home, or really just about anything you want. But of course, we are on the topic of handmade items, so that's exactly what we want. And they say, you can add photos. You can add up to 10 photos on Facebook Marketplace. Title, price, category, condition, and description is what they give you. I would probably expect to have, offers for your items on here, people kind of haggling you a little bit on Facebook Marketplace. So that's kind of one of the downsides potentially listing on Facebook Marketplace. But you will receive, attention to your items. And I've received a ton of views on my items as well. So you definitely have that incentive to get on Facebook Marketplace. I would try out every single alternative to Etsy and really see, which one works best for you. And it could be, maybe 3 or 5 of them. It really just depends, and it really depends on what you're selling as well. In terms of like arts and crafts, or are you selling t-shirts, vintage shirts? Etsy is very wide ranging, and so are these. So I have a ton of other Depop, Etsy, eBay, and other e-commerce related videos. So remember to hit the like button and subscribe so you can see all those videos that I have coming up. And also leave a comment below in case I missed anything in this video. Thank you so much for watching this video, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.